Hi there. In this post, I'm going to address the use of its and its with an apostrophe. So its and it apostrophe s. Um, this is something that I get wrong all the time, and after having spent a little bit of time looking at the differences between the two, it's probably something I should be able to get right more often than not, and that really is just down to a little bit of clarification as to when and why you use each one. So we're going to start with it's with an apostrophe, and that is in technical terms called a contraction, or an abbreviation for it is or it has. And so if you are looking at the cartoon I posted there, a good example of this is to include it is into the sentence, and if it still makes sense, then you're probably using the apostrophe correctly. So it is him, it is alpha 1 can be replaced with it is him, it's alpha 1. And so that's it's pretty clear that in that regard you're using the apostrophe correctly. It's with no apostrophe, on the other hand, is a little bit more difficult to define, but the problem there is that in the past I would use the apostrophe on its or its as a progressive pronoun when it wasn't necessary. And so its or its is defined by saying that it's the ownership of some previously defined object. So in the cartoon I posted, the character says, "This form has its limits," and he's referring to its is referring to the form that he's having difficulty with. And in that regard, there should be no punctuating. There should be no apostrophe. And so the best way of knowing whether or not you made a mistake there is actually to go back to it is, and including that in the sentence. And so if you put it is in there, suddenly it makes no sense at all. So this form has it is limits, is like total gobbledygook. And so you know that you probably used the apostrophe incorrectly in that regard. The other trick is to use his, which is also a progressive pronoun. But with that aside, injecting his in replacement of its into that sentence, as long as it sounds right, then you probably used its correctly. So this form has his limits. Still sounds right. It doesn't make sense, but it still sounds right. And so in that regard, you've probably used its correctly without punctuating it. So the best thing to do is to look at text that you're reading, pay attention to the use of its with and without the apostrophe, and making a mental note of when and why it's used when you're reading the paper or reading a book, and just keeping a mental note of that will hopefully slowly but surely ensure that you're using the term correctly, and I'll definitely be keeping an eye on this, and if I go back to getting it wrong in the future, I'll do a post as to maybe why I forgot, but that's it for now.